creation. I'm a brand new man. Old things are passed away. I am born again. More than a conqueror, that's who I am. I'm a new creation.
Good morning. Welcome to the Spirit of Life broadcast. I'm Brother Richard Black. Welcome to the show today. We're going to get right into the show. This is going to be a show on domestic abuse, domestic violence. And it's a hard subject, but I want, first of all, if you're out there and you're being abused, I'm going to explain what the abuse is, what the violation of the law is to you. But if you want to write this down, South Carolina legislation, go on your computer and type in SC Code of Laws. The Code of Laws will come up, go down to chapter 16. The section you're looking for is 162510 is the definition of the domestic abuse and the articles used in domestic abuse. Deadly weapon means any pistol, dart, slingshot, metal knuckles, razors, or other instruments which can be used to inflict deadly force, function of a body member or organ. Now I want you to remember this, your brain is a body member, and verbal abuse, threats to do things to you or your children, is still domestic abuse. Understand that. I have a loved one going through who was raped on Hilton Head in an exclusive club. And she's going through that. And it's terrible because the suspect gets to walk around free for 1, 2, 5, 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years, while the person is suffering the effects of the abuse, whether it's mental, physical, whatever it is. It can cause post-stress disorders, those kind of things. Women want to be loved. They want to be cuddled. They want to be cared for. That's all they want. They just want to be, maybe they want to be homemaker, maybe they want to have a job, but no matter where they go, what they're doing, who they want to be loved, not abused or controlled. So we're going to get into that today, and I want you to pay close attention to it. My phone number is 864-431-3263. And if you want to talk about this, please call me. If you'd like to have a discussion with me and other people who know about sexual abuse, such as law enforcement or these nonprofits who counsel sexual abuse, please get in touch with me. I'll see if I can set it up and we'll get together. Now, household. What is domestic abuse and who's involved? Household members means a spouse, a former spouse, and it goes of children, former children, places where you live with. Don't have to be a husband. It can be a person you live with, but you can look up that section and read it. It's about 16 pages of laws and penalties, but go to section 162510 for definitions and the penalties of and how court orders work to keep the abuser away from you. So South Carolina, just SC Code of Laws, it'll pop up, go down to chapter 16 and look up that code of 162510 for definitions, okay? Got a hotline here on domestic abuse. You can call 1-800-799-7233. 1-800-799-7233. Or 1-800-787-3224. That's for TTY. Okay. But it's a domestic hotline. If you get on that website, it's got a chat now button you can push, and they will talk with you over the chat as well. Abuse defined. What is domestic violence? Okay. My page cut off there, so it can be a victim, a perpetrator of domestic violence. It can happen to people who are married, living together, who are dating, in effect, people of all social, economic backgrounds and education levels. So it really don't matter who you are, what you know, how rich you are, how poor you are, what your education level is. Domestic abuse can happen by the smartest and the most intelligent. And it can happen to men as well as women, but it happens to women at a greater number. Domestic violence includes, now I want you to listen to this, behaviors that physical harm, arouse fear, anything that makes you afraid of fear, prevent a partner from doing what they wish. Now, preventing a partner from doing what they wish or force them to behave in ways they do not want. It includes the use of physical and sexual violence, threats and intimidation, emotional abuse, economic deprivation. Many of these different forms of domestic violence abuse can be occurring at any one time within the same intimate relationship. Now, all that says is control. They would want to control your checkbook. They'll take the battery cables off your battery. You can't go anywhere in your car. They'll hide your keys. They'll tell you who you can see, who you can't see, where you can go, when you can go, or if you can go at all. They'll lock you in your house, in your room. It's absolute total control. That's domestic violence, domestic abuse. Domestic violence includes behaviors that causes physical harm. It arouses fear. Are you in fear of your partner? Your partner will prevent a partner from doing what they wish or force him to behave in a way they do not want. It includes the use of physical and sexual violence, threats, and intimidation. Like, if you don't get back home here in a few minutes, I'm going to kill your children. If you call the police on me, I'm going to sue you. You get back here right now. And in one instance, a picture of a firearm was texted to the lady with the threat that the man was going to kill himself. Threatening to kill himself as a form of intimidation to get you to come back home, because it would be your fault if he killed himself. It's not your fault. It's just a way of controlling a person who wants to be loved, who wants their life to be normal, who wants all the things anybody else wants, but you're dealing with a person who wants to control people, wants to intimidate people, wants to threaten you. None of that is love. It includes the use of physical and sexual violence, threats and intimidation, emotional abuse, economic abuse, depriving you of your money. Many of those different forms of domestic violence abuse can be occurring at any one time within the same intimate relationship. They got a hotline. We use the power and control wheel to describe most accurately what occurs in the abusive relationship. Think of this wheel as a diagram of the tactics an abusive partner used to keep their victims in the relationship. Used to keep their victims in the relationship. These things are used to keep an abused person in the relationship. It's types of intimidation. Now, if you get on the hotline, you'll find this wheel right here. And I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm going to do something I ain't never done before, but we're going to see. Give it a chance to focus. If it does, it may not. Okay. But anyway, anyhow, I'm sorry. I messed that up big time, but anyway, there you go. Now, what's on this wheel is physical violence sexual. Okay? Using coercion and threats. Making and carrying a threat to do something to hurt her, threatening to leave her, to commit suicide, to report her to welfare, making her drop charges, making her do illegal things. That's coercion. That's intimidation, threatening you. Using intimidation, making her afraid by using looks, action, gestures. Listen to this. Smashing things, destroying her property, abusing pets, displaying weapons. Using emotional abuse, putting her down, making her feel bad about herself, calling her names, making her threats, making her think she's crazy, physically playing mind games, humiliation game, making her feel guilty. And this wheel is called the power and control. This is how abusers control their victims. Using economic abuse, preventing her from getting or keeping a job, making her ask for money, give her an allowance, taking her money, not letting her know about or have access to family income, keeping you away from your money. Using male privilege, treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, being the one to define men and women's roles. Using children, making her feel guilty about her children. Using the children to relay messages, using visitation to harass her, threatening to take the children away. Minimizing and denying blame. Making light of the abuse and not taking her concerns about it seriously, saying she's abused don't happen, shifting responsibility for abuse behavior, saying she caused it. Does all this sound familiar to you ladies out there? Isolation is one of the power control. Controlling what she does, who she sees and talks to, what she reads, where she goes, limiting her outside involvement, using jealousy and justifying actions, to justify actions. Now, like I said, you can get on the hotline, pull that wheel up and look at all those things that have to deal with power and control of the victim. Warning signs of domestic violence. Warning signs of domestic violence. I know this is a Christian TV show and you like to hear the Bible read to you, but see, there's people out there that claim they're Christians, but they don't love their wife like Christ loved the church, because he would never abuse his wife. He loves her, he forgives her, he prays for her, all those things. It's not always easy to tell at the beginning of a relationship if it will become abuse. In fact, many abusive partners may seem absolutely perfect in the early stages of a relationship. Possessive and controlling behavior don't always appear overnight, but rather emerges and intentionally as the relationship grows. Gets more and more intense, gets worse, don't get better. Domestic violence doesn't look the same in every relationship because every relationship is different. But one thing most abusive relationships have in common is that the abusive partner does many different kinds of things to have more power and control over their partner. See, that's not love, it's not marriage, it's not security. And I know we get to, well, I'm going to lose my house, I'm going to lose my children, I don't have a job, I don't make enough money to be on my own, so I have to stay in a relationship. My best advice to you is if any of these things are happening to you, I would go to my local law enforcement agency in whatever jurisdiction you're in, sheriff department, police department. They have victims advocates to help you through this, but if you don't ever go to the police, the abuse will never stop. I know you don't want any kind of trouble, and they'll tell you if you call the police, I'm going to tell them that I'm going to sue you for causing my disorder that I have now because the police showed up. They don't want the police to show up because they don't want the police to know what they're doing. Shows extreme jealousy of your friends and time spent away. Keeps you or discourages you from seeing friends or family members. Insults, demeans, or shames you with put-downs. Control every penny spent in the household, takes your money, or refuses to give your money for necessity expenses. Look at you or act in ways that scare you. Control who you see, where you go, or what you do. Prevent you from making your own decisions. Tells you that you are a bad partner or threatens to harm or take away your children. Prevents you from working or attending school. Destroys your property or threatens to hurt or kill your pets. Intimidate you with guns, knives, or other weapons. Pressures you to have sex when you don't want to or do things sexually you're not comfortable with. In 2 cases that I've talked to people who are into this SM stuff where they put leather on and they handcuff people to the bed and they beat them with a whip, and somehow that caused the person getting beat to have some kind of sexual occurrence going on, wants to feel dominated by women. But he makes the woman who don't want to do that for his own pleasure. That's domestic abuse. Pressure you to have sex when you don't want to or do things sexually you're not comfortable with. Pressure you to use drugs or alcohol. Any reason, if you have concerns about what's happening in your relationship, contact us. We are here to listen and to support. And that's that domestic abuse hotline. And let me see if I can pull that number back up for you in the middle of the program here. I can. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. And if you're doing TTY, 1-800-787-3224. And they got one for Spanish as well. But if you get on there, you can chat with them on that website. It's this National Domestic Violence Hotline. Physical abuse. You may be experiencing physical abuse if your partner has done or repeatedly does any of the following tactics of abuse. And only you know this. Pulling your hair, punching, slapping, kicking, biting, or choking you. Forbidding you from eating or sleeping, hurting you with weapons, preventing you from calling the police or seeking medical attention, harming your children, abandoning you in unfamiliar places, driving recklessly or dangerously when you are in the car with them, forcing you to use drugs or alcohol, especially if you have had a substance abuse problem. sexual abuse or coercion, reproductive coercion, financial abuse, and digital abuse. If you go to that page, you go to the number 8, page number 8, it talks about forgiveness in the situation. It talks about a closer look at A Star Is Born. How can I talk to my abuser? And these are different events you can go to. March is gone February 21st, 9 a.m. I'm supposing you can get into these things on the internet. Healing Through the Arts. Aretha Franklin, A Legacy of Survival Story. Silent Scars of Domestic Abuse. Moving On Emotionally After an Abusive Relationship. Those are different programs that you can get involved with and watch and talk to different people about. Now, I've decided to put this on the program because I'm getting a lot of calls from ladies who are in an abusive relationship, and most of it is the reason of security. Husbands that are more into pornography than they are their wives. They are into S&M. They are always talking about sex with other women and fellow women employees. If you keep putting pornography in front of you, you will keep feeding the monster, and it won't go away. But women do not want husbands looking at other women or looking at sexual abuse or looking at pornography and all of those things. They get out of the relationship, and then the husband goes, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to go to therapy. Let me tell you this. If your mate you're separated from that abused you says, I'm going to go to church, well, tell him to go. I want to go to therapy. Tell him to go. Call me in a year and let me know how it's going in therapy and how you doing at church. Going to church don't get you saved, and going to church don't change you. You're just trying again another type of power by saying, well, sweetheart, I know you're a little bit religious, so I'll start going to church, and that appeases her. That makes her feel better that maybe you're going to get better and maybe you're going to do better. Well, I'm going to go to therapy. Don't go to therapy with him. Let him go to therapy and tell him you'll talk to him in a year when you find out how well the therapy's working and if he's changed any. The hard part about this is if you get back in that relationship and he looks like change, just like you started out in a relationship, loving, kind, and taking you out to eat and all that stuff, romancing you, and then the abuse happens, you get rid of him. The abuse keeps happening when you get rid of him. He wants you back, and he's going to do that whole love thing again, take you out to eat. He's going to date you. He's going to just like worship you until you get back in a relationship and it starts right back up again. You need to call the National Domestic Abuse Violence Hotline, and you need to call your local sheriff's department, police department. You need to go meet with them once you get out of the house. Because this lady that I talked to could only get out of the house because she had a doctor's appointment, and that's the time you do what you need to do. You do need the sheriff's department no matter what your mate has threatened to do. They will help you and your children be protected. They'll take your report. If there's any firearms involved, they can go get them. If you have stuff in your house that you want, you need to have law enforcement go with you to get that stuff. You need to get a court order of protection from that person so they can't contact you or come around you or bother you. Those are remedies that we have for this kind of stuff. It don't mean a piece of paper says that he's forbidden by law to come around you. Some of these people are so demonic and so pressed that they don't care what the court order, and they'll risk going to jail. They'll risk violating that order of protection. But the very minute, very second he does that, and you know he's coming or he's there, you need to call 911 and get the police over there right then. Lock the doors, don't let them in, period. Don't threaten to call the police, call the police. Don't tell him you're calling the police, just call the police. Those threats are not going to scare him off. So, I was 20 years in law enforcement, handled domestic violence problems and abuse problems. And it's very difficult to get a woman to do the law enforcement thing because she's afraid of what he will do. That she'll lose her house, her furniture, her property. She may lose her children. All those kind of things come into play here. One guy I knew was a very nice, friendly, loving guy. Everybody where he worked loved him. He lived in a very fancy, gated community, had money. And we got a call to go out there, and she had left the house and went down the street to some other guy's house that was a friend. And that's where we met her, but he still had the children in the house, and she was scared to death he was going to hurt them children. Well, he was ashamed. It would be in the papers. I give her my card and told her she needs to go someplace and stay away from him. We went down and got the kids out. Well, 15 minutes she called me back, and he had taken all the battery cables off the car, so she couldn't go nowhere. He was very religious, went to a very full gospel type church. Not a slam on full gospel, just him. He went to church 125 miles away from his home and made them go. The second time we went back to arrest him, we found him in the attic of his home and had shot himself with a .22 rifle, and he was dead. And the people he worked for could not believe it. A lot goes on, and there's a lot happens, and it's very scary, and it's very hard. God love you. God help you. We pray for you and with you. My numbers have been on the screen. Feel free to call me if you would. If you work with domestic abuse and violence and would like to come on the show and talk about it, for real, we will be glad to do that with you. It's time for us to go. My number is 864-431-3263. My address is Post Office Box 704, Taylor, South Carolina, 29687. And you can email me at rickeblack@hotmail.com. I'll answer your emails. Again, you can call me at 864-431-3263. This is the Spirit of Life broadcast. And we may stay on these type subjects for a while. I don't know yet. We'll see you next time in Jesus' name.
I'm a new creation. I'm a brand new man. Old things are passed away. I am born again. More than a conqueror, that's who I am. I'm a new creation. I'm a brand new man.